Welcome to Music Outlook LA, the weekly podcast which highlights the independent artist, whether they are a musician, vocalist, actor, actress, live audio or in-studio engineer, or a videographer, photographer. I'm your host, Will Kimsey. Each episode, we'll look at the gigs of the independent artist, from the venues we play to how we set up and break down, the gear we use and why we use it, and the info we hope you'll find useful as we all make our way in the entertainment industry. Music Outlook LA is brought to you by Kim Z Entertainment, LLC. Go to kim-zentertainment.com to find out what they're doing for the independent artist. Kim Z Entertainment, LLC. Independent entertainment done independently. My guest today is drummer, percussionist, Alan Lightner. I've known Alan for many years, as we both learned music together in our early years. Today, his work as a percussionist has taken him all over the world and seems to be pretty much centered around various Afro-centric styles. He's worked with Will Smith, Mos Def, Ashanti, Ayres, and Lenny Williams, just to name a few. He's also worked as a master faculty member at the East Bay Center for the Performing Arts. So today we're going to talk about that, the various drums, and more. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Alan Lightner. Alan, my man, what's going on?
Hey, everything is fine. Everything is fine. It's great to talk to you. As you said, we've known each other for so long, and I'm just looking forward to catching up even.
There you go. That's all good. So, yeah, tell us about yourself. Who is Alan Lightner? What is Alan all about?
All right. Well, obviously, based on your introduction, Alan Lightner is a procrastinator and hasn't updated his website with his bio. So that's cool.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, think I'm busted now. All right. Okay. Yes, well, as you said, I am a working musician, based in the Los Angeles area. I play drums as my very first instrument, and still drum set, that is, and still feels like home. But I'd have to say more of my time and energy is spent playing percussion and actually playing steel pans, also the Caribbean instrument.
All right.
That's actually much more of my my bread and butter, as they say these days.
Well, there you got to have bread and butter, man. You need bread and butter to make it happen, man.
I get hungry.
Hey, we all get hungry, man. We all need a little more bread and butter in our lives. So,
that is it.
Tell me about it. So where are you currently performing, man?
Well, kind of as I said, I do so many different things with music. That's a hard thing to say. I just got off a tour, a 5-week tour around the United States, North America. Also visited Canada. With the Game of Thrones, the composer Ramin Djawadi of the theme music and all of the music in that iconic series, decided he wanted to take the music out on the road. It was so popular. The music is just about as popular as the show.
Tell me about it.
Right? So a few years ago, he and Live Nation and HBO and so on and so forth, the big machine, decided they'd give it a shot, and we did a tour, and it worked very, very well. It was very successful, at least critically acclaimed, and so on and so forth.
Right.
And so we did several more. We just finished up our fourth tour in several years. So there, I was performing all over North America, as I said. Now, I'm back doing what I always do when I'm here, and that is gigs around town. For instance, this weekend I have 2 steel drum gigs. I'm playing with a band tomorrow, really good band, a bunch of guys from Trinidad, which is the birthplace of that instrument, the steel pan. Mm-hmm. Doing just a private event, I think it's actually a health day fair of some sort in Glendale tomorrow. And then on Sunday, I have a steady brunch gig that I've had for years and years and years and years and years, also playing steel pan. And that's just solo. That's just me. And then after that, I'll be back to recording and, whatever gig is next. So I played earlier this week. I played at an opening of a new art and restaurant / bar called the Art Bar in Venice, playing percussion with an interesting band because there was sitar and upright bass and trumpet. And yeah, it was really nice. So I was playing kind of percussion, but I was kind of holding down as a drummer also. So it's, you know, it's just playing around town and doing whatever, and every once in a while something big comes up.
That's cool. That's cool. So let's talk about the Game of Thrones, man, because I think that I've got a few fans out there that have checked out the show. And I'm sorry, I'm going to quote the meme. I have not watched Games of Thrones. Not one episode. Sorry about that. I'm a Walking Dead power kind of guy. That's just where I am.
Hey, man, don't worry. I had not seen a complete episode before I got the gig. Full disclosure.
There you go.
And I'd heard, you know, the hype, and, you know, I never got all, you know, I heard the hype, and so I checked out a little bit, but until I had the gig, I had never seen a complete episode. I have not seen every episode. I have not seen most of the series. So full disclosure.
Exactly.
I am more in step and in tune with the music than with the actual show.
Okay. As well you should be. That's what you're involved in. So I checked out some of the photos and some of the video snippets you have posted online on your various social media sites doing the Game of Thrones thing. So how does that work? If I remember what I see correctly, the project or the Game of Thrones episode or whatever is playing on a large screen, and you're on stage playing with the video?
Actually, it's a huge production, and yes, so there are iconic scenes from the series. There are iconic pieces of music from the series, and sometimes they are one and the same. And so, video-wise and production-wise, we revisit some of those scenes. It's not playing the whole, obviously not the whole 8 seasons,
right?
But certain scenes where the music is really prominent and important to the scene, and we recreate it. So the way it works is Ramin, the composer, travels with 8 or 7 to 9 soloists, depending upon which tour you're talking about, which year.
Mm-hmm.
And the soloists, there are 2 of us playing percussion. There is a cellist. There's a violinist, a keyboard player / conductor, co-conductor, that is,
mm-hmm.
a vocalist, and let's see, did I get everybody? And earlier tours, there was also a woodwind player. It wasn't on this last one. And those would be the soloists. And then every location that we get to, every city or district area, we pick up a local orchestra and a local choir.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's the orchestra featuring those soloists that I mentioned, and the choir featuring that vocalist, and so on and so forth. And we rehearse with them, and then we do a show or several shows. You know, sometimes it's the same, depending upon where we are. If we're several places in Germany, we have the same exact orchestra and the same choir, certain areas like that. And that's pretty much how it goes. And Ramin has edited the music and changed things so that it could work for hopefully in a live setting. Yeah, it's been a great experience. Really top level musicians and great people and blah blah blah, so on and so forth. And the music is just a ball to play.
Cool. So where are some of the places you've played at all over the world? You mentioned Germany and Canada. Where else?
Well, all over Europe. We did a European leg where, almost you name it, we were there, except Italy. We didn't, for some strange reason, we didn't visit one place in Italy. But definitely crossed off a lot of places that I had never been. I'd never been to Ireland, anywhere in Ireland, and we did several dates there. So all over Europe on that tour, pretty much everywhere. But some notables, well, for instance, we did 2 nights at Wembley in the UK.
Uh-huh.
So So that was something off the bucket list. I crossed that one off the bucket list.
Right.
Yeah, and great shows, just sold out shows. So the whole thing that you and I both looked forward to and dreamed about in a way, and we continue to.
Exactly.
Those things.
Yep. I mean, my bucket list is quite considerably larger than yours, I think. I still have world travel on the bucket list, so
yeah. Well, and believe me, I you never know when it's going to happen. I know I have learned that along the way, definitely. So we ended this last tour at the Hollywood Bowl. Mm-hmm. So obviously that's another iconic spot. I'm fortunate enough that that's my second time playing there. So that was already off the bucket list, but somehow it got back on the bucket list. I needed to do it again.
Hey, that's all good. When you can play at the Bowl, it's all good, man. So were you hoping that any of people that you knew ended up being out there while you were playing?
Yep. No, absolutely. Yeah, they're funny. The first time I played was with Lady Antebellum, the kind of country pop group.
Right.
But playing a couple of their songs and then also doing a Beyonce cover.
Oh, wow.
With playing like go-go kind of style percussion.
Oh man, that sounds like that was a trip.
How about that?
There you go. That sounds like that was a trip. So speaking of some of the big names in the industry, I had mentioned some of the people you play for. What was it like playing for some of those folks?
Oh, amazing. Some of those big name acts and smaller name acts, the names you don't know, but there's a lot that you can learn from some of those names, those named acts. There are reasons that many of them are known.
Right.
You mentioned Mos Def and Common, and I remember doing the first time I did a show with the two of them together. Mm-hmm. It was in Chicago. This was some years ago now. But what I was struck by was at rehearsal how much they were bringing it. The two of them, like, on stage, this is just at rehearsal. This is not, the show is not for another day or two. But at rehearsal, it was like the show. I think I may have liked the rehearsal better than the actual performance when it happened.
Cool.
And I was struck by that. It's one thing I learned. Several people, Justo Mario, the fantastic saxophonist, mm-hmm. at rehearsal in in downtown LA, in a little small room, sweaty room, with too many people in the room playing too loud. Right. But when we're lucky enough to have him doing this show, and he starts playing, and it's like a solo off a record. It's like what? This is rehearsal, and you're bringing it like that.
Yeah.
But it's a lesson too. I definitely take those lessons to heart. Like, okay, no, I'm not guilty of coasting at a rehearsal or anything, but I definitely am guilty of like saying, okay, well, let's just walk through this one, and then at the show we'll do it.
Right.
But those guys at rehearsal, they were doing it. They're bringing it every time.
So what's something that you might have learned? You mentioned that you learned some things from them. Tell us some of the things you learned working with some of these great individuals.
That's one of the main things that I learned that I really took away from like those two or three that I just mentioned. The work ethic and the just the approach and how you're always when you're practicing. If you want to be able to get down, you better practice getting down. You're not going to be able to get down if you've never gotten down before. Mm-hmm. So, that's something definitely that I have learned from those. And some others, I know this is a show, so I'll drop some names.
Some names. It's all good. You're allowed.
Working with Will I Am and the Black Eyed Peas was nice. Learned something different. That same kind of work ethic, but it's also they keep the like the identity of the band and of them. So it's kind of fun. Like they're joking and laughing the whole time. We're still working hard,
right.
Getting it done, and still. Saying, nope, that wasn't it. Up next, try that, do that. But then it's a million jokes halfway through at the same time.
Right.
Lady Antebellum, there's a party band that's like a fun country, pop country. And backstage, they're just having fun. Very, everybody's hanging out with everybody, and no stars in one room, and the little percussionist over there and down in the hall in the closet. It's not like that. Everybody's hanging out, laughing, eating. So that's another thing, keeping your identity and keeping aware of it and working hard at the same time.
Mm-hmm. No little I's, no little U's. Everybody's got a big part to play.
That's exactly right. Everybody's breathing the same air. Everybody's using that same. Everybody's giving it their all at all times. So, yeah, name doesn't mean a thing once you're all on that stage.
Right. Hey, I was checking out the old bio, which by your own admission you have to update, but I noticed some of the right. I noticed some of the articles that you've appeared in. Why don't you run some of those by us real quick?
What did it say? I don't remember.
Oh, see. Now there you go. Let's talk about the Charles Osgood file.
Oh yeah, that was when I was teaching also on that. I used to when I was living in the Bay Area, I started teaching at a community-based arts center. When I say community-based, that's kind of quotes. It was half nonprofit, half profit kind of organization, but a really great just arts program, a theater, visual arts, obviously music of all kinds, really great, and it was in the hood, basically.
Right.
It was in Richmond, way on the other side of the tracks, way on the other side, deep on the other side of the tracks.
Right.
And when I graduated from college, actually right before I graduated, the previous director of the steel band, the steel pan band, and other music there was leaving to go. He'd got a great teaching gig at the University of Washington.
So you're talking about East Bay, right?
I'm talking about the East Bay Center in the Bay Area.
Okay.
So the previous instructor there got another gig. He asked me if I wanted to take over, would be interested in taking over his position. I was very interested. I didn't think I was qualified, but I was very interested. And so I did. I jumped in, and it worked out very well. I was teaching private drum set, some private percussion, and then I was the director of the steel band, and I was doing some private lessons on steel pan. And I taught some harmony classes, I think, some various things. But that was just when they needed somebody to jump in. I think I may have even had a piano student, believe it or not. That's, you can laugh at that. Well,
I'm not going to try and laugh too much because, I mean, you know what's up with that. I mean, I'm not going to. I think I will toot my own horn. I helped you get started reading sheet music.
There's no question about that. You absolutely did. I have told many a folk who was responsible for teaching me my first notes on a vibraphone. Like, play there. This is C right here. So you're going to start with this note and that note and that note. And that was you, absolutely you. First person ever to show me any notes. And then, like, as you say, this is where it is on the page.
That's it. It was a quick 10, 15-minute lesson. But
it stuck with me, and it did. It changed things. I realized, hey, yeah, I get this. I kind of get it. I didn't really, but I thought I did at the time. Right. But I did get something. I did understand that, yeah, this is something that I could do. I would enjoy this. I won't stop this.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that I'm remembering why I did that in the first place. When we were in junior high and we were in concert band, I happened to help out the instructor at the time passing out music, and I saw the drum chart for one of the songs, and I just happened to notice that it's the same piece of music, five staffs and everything, except it's not on notes. It's basically funny looking X's. One line is for the bass drum, another space is for the snare, cymbal, and gives you the basics or whatever. And I just said, well, okay, even though it's the same staff, let's turn those spaces that you know as the bass drum space, which, if you're reading music, in treble clef, it's F on the bass drum. In bass clef, it's the A space. Let's just turn it into what I know it to be. F, A, C, E are the spaces. E, G, B, D, F are the lines. And that's what I was just primarily trying to show you how it worked. And okay, that's what it is on the page. Here it is on the vibraphone. And full disclosure, the very first band that I was ever a part of, Alan was in, and a buddy of ours, Philip Napier, was also a member of that band. We called ourselves Fantasy. We did that in that same school. We had a talent show. We did one song, the Commodores, Still.
Yep, that was the beginning.
That was the beginning, and from that point, we were hooked. We had on our all white. They had blue floodlights going on with that and everything. And I was just like, oh, I am so hooked. I was on piano. Alan was on vibes. We had bass. We had a guitar. I mean, we had a full several-piece band going on there. Even had trumpets. I mean, we had everything going on. We were trying to make it happen. So there you have it. The instruments you play, obviously, regular drum, standard drum set, steel drums. What else do you play, and what kind of steel drum do you use?
Okay, so that's an interesting question right there. The steel pans are all handmade, so you have someone make one for you. You can find them, but even when you find them online or at a store, perhaps you usually find out who made it, right? And that's the kind. So there's no real brand. There are some stores that have a brand or outlets, I'll call them. Mm-hmm. But typically, the pans that I play were created by Ellie Minette, who is an iconic figure in the steel pan world, because he was the first little kid on the island of Trinidad to tune a scale on the top of an oil barrel.
Oh, okay.
And he just passed away, actually, just this past year in living in West Virginia. But he is known as the father of the steel pan, even though there were some other kids on the island that, inspired him also. But he's the first one to ever tune a scale on that. And then invented the whole rest of the orchestra, if you will. There's a full orchestra, for those of you that don't know. In the steel pan world, it's like the stringed instruments of a traditional orchestra. The bass, the cello, viola, violin, basically the same instrument in a different range.
Right.
The same is true in the steel pan world. Mm-hmm. There are basses and what we call cellos or guitars. There are double seconds, which is kind of in the viola range. There are the leads, which is a misnomer. We call them tenor pans, even though it's really more of a soprano instrument, but whatever. So because I was teaching at the East Bay Center for Performing Arts, and I did that for 8 years or so, because I was teaching the whole steel band, I really had to become at least somewhat proficient on all of the instruments of the orchestra, of the steel pan orchestra. Mm-hmm. And it's actually somewhat more different than a violin compared to a viola. It's not just the tuning is slightly different, or it's almost a completely different instrument each. Mm-hmm. And so I had to learn all of them. I'm the most proficient, and I play most often on that viola ranged instrument, which is the double second. And the ones I play, like I said, are made by Ellie Minette, although I've played many different pan makers. And typically, if I either play a pan made by him or one of his students. That's really it.
Okay, cool. So one thing that I'm getting from all of this is like comparing it to the string instruments. The pan instruments are of different sizes. Now, I got a couple questions on this. Should I call it steel drum or steel pan? And is there a difference between the two?
I'm in there. Yes, you should call it a steel pan. The steel pan is what the instrument is called. That's what the inventors called it. That's what they call it still. That's what the players will call it. If you say steel drum, everybody will know what you're talking about, but they'll also know that you don't know what you're talking about. So you get put in that box. Okay, yeah, I know. Okay, steel drum. You call it that, of course, because the tourists that came to the island didn't call it a pan. They called it a drum because it is, it's a kind of a barrel. It is a drum, but that's not the name of the instrument.
Right. So there are different sizes for the different pans, right? Yes,
and just a quick little history. It comes from the kids on the island playing on pots and pans from the kitchen. And this, and well, even before that, but among that. And then, you're playing on a pan, and this is just a new pan that you're playing on. So that's kind of the origin of the name of that instrument.
Okay. So with it being different sizes, your smallest one would be, I guess, in your soprano range. Your next larger size would be the alto range, then the tenor, and then you've got your big bass one, right?
The only problem with that is they're all made using 55-gallon oil barrels. That's changing now. They're experimenting with some larger barrels and this, but typically speaking, there are 55-gallon oil barrels that this instrument is created from. But the way you do it, but you are exactly right. There are dents or indentations on the face of the barrel that create the notes that are the different notes. And like you say, the smaller the note, the higher the pitch. And so if you see a person, you just on the street or wherever you might see a pan player, because it varies, right, or in some corny movie, and it's playing a single barrel, and it's been cut short. It's a short skirt on it. It's not the full skirt. It's very short. That is the soprano instrument that we call a tenor pan. Okay. It's got all small notes on the face of it, so you can get about 3 octaves or 3.5 octaves. You can fit that many small little notes on top of that one barrel. Right. Now, if you see my instrument that I typically play has 2. I play on 2 different barrels because the notes within each barrel are much larger, so I can't fit as many notes.
Right.
I need two different barrels to fit 3 octaves of notes.
Okay.
And then when you get all the way down to the bass, then you're talking about 6 to 9 to 12 full barrels. And there's the skirt is not cut at all. It's the full oil barrel, that size. Because you only get 2 to 3 notes on each barrel.
Right. So I've only seen a steel pan up close a few times. But one thing I do notice, there's 2 things I notice about that, and that's the indentation, or I guess the raised bumps. And I notice that some steel pan players actually mark with a permanent marker where certain notes are, like they'll point out where middle C is and that kind of thing. So it's that indentation. Once that indent is struck, that's what gives the note sound, right?
That is exactly right. And generally speaking, almost even if I buy new pans right now, they're going to come with the notes written in. Not depending upon who I buy it from and if they're really making it specifically for me. Right. But if you buy a new pan, they often have the notes written in. Part of that reason is each one is still handmade, and there's no real agreed upon standard for where each note should go.
That's what I was about to ask.
Yeah. My A flat is in one place on this instrument, but if I play it on that other pan, which is supposed to be the same pan, it's in a whole different place. And, so that often is the case. And then, of course, that helps greatly when you're teaching somebody.
Yeah, because, on a piano, middle C is always in the middle of the keyboard, no matter whether it's a piano, an upright piano, acoustic, or an electric keyboard or whatever. Same deal with the stringed instruments. You've got 4 open strings, primarily E, A, D, and G, whether it be a violin, viola, bass, whatever. And, you just take it from there. And it's different size. The violin is the smallest of those string instruments. Viola is the next size larger. Cello is larger than that. And then you have the double bass. When we were learning, I think we got to high school about the time, and that instructor, good old Mr. Joel Lish, we were doing one of the school musicals, and our bass player from Fantasy, Kogi, was sick, and Lish asked me to go learn bass. I'm like, I don't know how to do this. What does he do? He gives me the beginning book and just points and says, go. And this thing is bigger than me. But hey, I learned it, and now I play bass on occasion. So there you have it.
That's the way it is. That's what happens.
There you go. Hey, that's going to jump me into of different instruments. Let's get to the set. What's your favorite type of set? What kind of drums do you like? What kind of cymbals? You a Zildjian guy? Tama? I mean, what's your favorite when you hit a standard regular set? What do you like to bang on?
I typically play, and what I like is a Gretsch. I have a couple of Gretsch sets that I rotate between depending upon what the music is, and I've got like a small kick and that's real open sound if I'm doing like a straight ahead jazz kind of thing, and I've got a little larger one that's a little tighter if I'm doing something funk or R&B or rock or whatever bass music. So Gretsch is what I usually like. I've played a lot of different drums that I like. You know, there are great drums all over the place. Every brand, honestly. But Gretsch is the one that I have gravitated to and really like. And I like Evans heads. They have a really nice warm tone that I really like. There's a lot of body to the drum with Evans heads on them. I typically use Vic Firth SD4 sticks. They feel good. They're strong, but they're not too heavy. They're thin enough, but it doesn't feel like you're playing chopsticks, with chopsticks, but they're still, it's just a great size for me, for what I like. And I like the round bead for doing rolls and getting that bounce back off of a drum.
I just happened to think about this right off the top of my head. Am I wrong for thinking that I see some piece of lead thing going right straight up the middle of some sticks, or what?
Yes. No, you're not wrong. What the actual material is, I'm not really sure. They probably change it. It might be lead, but what that is a strengthener. Yes, that and weight. It adds weight and strength. Mostly, it's about you don't want to break your sticks. Sticks break all the time. It's what you do. You're pounding. You might be crashing on the side of a cymbal, on purpose for that sound. You're crashing on that side of the cymbal. Eventually, that stick will give.
Yeah.
and rim shots and what have you. Your sticks are getting abused every time you play them. So for strength, some stick companies do add that. That's a choice you have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So it's just a choice, and it changes the feel and it's so quirky, and every drummer has a different thing that they like, and what's what you get comfortable with.
Right. I know as someone who's played woodwinds, I also play clarinet and a little bit of sax. We have different size reeds. The same is true for drumsticks, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I play with different sized sticks depending upon what I'm doing. For instance, if I'm doing something like I was doing on the Game of Thrones tour, it's not quite orchestral percussion. In other words, there was no timpani, there was no concert snare, there were no crash cymbals or piatti, but it is not a drum set also, nor is it like a traditional, in quotes, Latin percussion setup. There are no bongos, there's no congas, there's no timbales, So it's not that thing either. It's somewhere in between. I was playing, for instance, on the Game of Thrones, I had 3 African junjun drums, big drums from Nigeria. I had a surdu from Brazil, like their big Brazilian drum. I had one of my floor toms from my Gretsch set, a huge concert bass. Like that's the most classical thing that I had, but I had it mounted flat and with a towel on it because I used it more like a kick drum in a way. And I also had a big, huge taiko drum that I used more like a concert bass, more like the big, huge, open, low rumble sound. And I used different sticks was my main point, depending upon what was called for in that piece, from mallets, large mallets, small mallets, hard mallets, soft mallets, to sticks. Same thing with small, like timbali style sticks, which are, just straight, very thin, small, light sticks, to big, heavy sticks, heavier sticks than I normally like to play with. If I'm playing a drum set, just because for the piece you need that big, huge sound, or taiko sticks, which are really huge,
right.
Just big old logs.
Right. So would you say that most of your work takes you as a standard set drummer or as a percussionist?
That varies as the time goes. I have found both I feel like I've had kind of three musical lives. The musical life that you knew from junior high in through high school, which was the beginning of everything.
Right.
Then I had the kind of musical life in the Bay Area, which kind of took kind of different ways. The one while I was in college and one after college, which I started out being known there as a drum set player. And then, he can also play some percussion. That's cool. We'll get him to do this and do that. Okay, that's cool. What I learned there is once they find out you play steel pans, and because no one else does, you're that guy.
You're in demand, exactly. You're in quite heavy demand for that. I heard that. So on the steel drums, and kind of jumping back to the thing, that mallet or stick, and I'm just, I don't know what you guys, I'm learning here too. Different sizes.
And nobody knows. And there's some rhyme, some reason, but there's not a whole lot of rhyme and reason.
And it's different sizes for the different size drums?
Absolutely. So if you're playing a bass pan, then the stick is going to be a very long stick. And if you can picture like an old child's pink rubber ball, be like one of those as the head. A very soft mallet is what you're looking for, a soft tip of the stick.
Right.
And then the lead or tenor pan, which is actually soprano, as I've said many times, has you play with the smallest stick. And they're all lightweight. As you may have figured out, you build and tune that instrument with a hammer. So if it's already in tune, then you really don't want to hammer it anymore. So the touch is light. The touch should be light.
Right. Hey, I was doing another interview earlier today with a gentleman. He's going to come on after you. His name is Eric Bailey. He works up at Pasadena Media, and we got to talking about the difference between the new music and the old music and everything. And I just mentioned this real quick. Folks, if you aren't hip to what steel drums can do and you're trying to get an intro to it other than hitting Afro-Cuban music, there's a cut Earth, Wind & Fire did called Side by Side. There's a steel pan solo in it, man. Have you heard it? If not, I'll send it to you.
You're blowing my mind right now.
Maurice does the lead. I'll send you the track. And like I said,
please send me.
I will do that. I think it's on the Powerlight CD, Powerlight album. And there's a steel pan solo in it. And then it goes back to, Earth, Wind & Fire is one of the most iconic bands out there. They have the full range of instruments, not just your drums, and your bass and everything else.
Surprising that they have that. It doesn't surprise me at all. It just surprises me that I didn't know it.
Oh, yeah, I'll shoot you the track, man. I tried to cover that song when I was in college up at Berkeley, and I tried to cover the solo on a synthesizer, and it does it. And funny thing, synthesizers label it steel drums. So now that I know, maybe I'll write a letter to some of the manufacturers and say, they call it a pan, so, why don't you get that right? But,
you might want to change that, but yeah. Good luck with that. Good luck with that.
Right. There you go. I digress. But check it out. When it comes to any of your equipment, when you're setting up and tear down, do you have anybody that helps you do that? How long does it take you? Because some of these venues that we all perform at, one of the things they like to see is a quick setup, quick tear down, get in, get out. That's one way to get re-invited back to that venue. So what's your rough time? You got a lot of heavy gear.
Absolutely. And that changes depending upon what the gig is. Typically, my gig, just around town and doing the do. I'm just, it's all on me. I'm bringing everything. I bring everything and set up everything and tear down everything. Of course, in my younger days, I probably brought too much stuff, and now maybe I bring too little.
Right.
I definitely do not bring more than I think I'm going to need, just because there's a lot of trips back and forth, and you end up on stage with a whole bunch, and the setup time is so long, and you didn't really need. That's not what this gig called for. Sometimes it's fun. Sometimes it's not really it's not really appropriate even. I definitely don't like I don't like to take more than a half an hour to set up
right
my anything. I give myself longer than that, but I don't. If I'm setting up and it's been more than a half an hour, I feel like I did too much.
Mm-hmm.
I did too much. Or this gig actually should have had somebody else with me. This is now too much.
There you go. Getting down to the wire on a few more questions here. So where can folks hear the stuff that you've worked on? Is it purchasable? That kind of thing.
There is music that is purchasable. I've got a CD that I did with a band called Pan Dulce that I started when I moved back to Southern California. That's been recorded some time ago now. I'd say I'm more proud of the compositions than I am necessarily of all the performances or the recording quality.
Right.
But I still, there are definitely some things that I'm still proud of on that recording. Also, a lot of my songs and my steel pan stuff on a group that I started along with some other guys in the Bay Area called Pan Ramage. We did three CDs. Okay. All of them include songs of mine and definitely, obviously, performances that still, I'm very proud of those. On other people's recordings, you'll catch me, you'll catch maybe a song or two. I'm fortunate enough so that there are some steel bands around the country, or I guess around the world, actually, that play some of my arrangements and my compositions.
Okay.
So you can be found.
Right. That was one of the questions I was going to ask you about. Pan Ramage and Pan Dulce. What's up with those guys?
Well, we've already discussed plenty about the Pan, so we know that those are both Pan focused bands, right? So Pan Ramage is a Trinidadian term. It's a French word, but it's in Trinidad they use it to mean kind of jam and solo and to really get into it. Mm-hmm. Really, that is more of a jazzy Caribbean, but not all Caribbean, but very jazzy approach. Typically, almost 100% instrumentals, but some vocals, and very world jazz focus. I'd say on that. That's Pan Ramage, and it was a great group. And we travel around teaching and doing clinics, and we do a workshop in Denver every summer, where Pan students come and learn and do that for a week and play for a week and have a huge concert at the end of the week.
Okay, that sounds cool.
So that's Pan Ramage. There are plenty compositions on Ramage.com that someone could find and purchase and play.
Right. I'll be putting that information in the show notes, ladies and gentlemen. So if you don't catch the spelling right off, don't worry. Just check the show notes. I'll put all the pertinent information in it.
Absolutely. Ramage.com or Ramage Productions, actually. You'll get it. You'll find that.
Right.
I'm working almost as we speak on a follow-up to that first Pan Dulce record, and then I got a host of other plans for the coming year with more recordings that will be available, hopefully easier than not.
Cool. And I'm going to wrap it up with this one last question that I ask all my guests. What's in your car?
What's in my car?
What's in your car? Why does that question throw everybody?
Nothing. I'm sure.
Oh man, when you're stuck in the LA traffic or traffic anywhere in the good old state of California or anywhere on the road, tour bus, whatever, what does Alan Lightner listen to?
Oh, what am I listening to in my car? I thought you meant actually. I was like, there's a whole lot of stuff in my car. I got my steel drums from last night's rehearsal. I got some stands.
There's a couple of chewing gum wrappers running around in there somewhere.
Let's see what's in the car right now. I still got in my car is a CD changer. There's There's two old school mix tape style CDs,
right?
That have everything on them. That's me. So there's some Prince on there. There's some Salif Keita on there. There's some Norah Jones on there. There's some Damian Marley on there. There's some Marvin Gaye on there. There's some Alan Lightner on there. There's some Rihanna on there. There's some what's on there? There's some Steely Dan on there. I'm just trying to think of what's on that. What's the next song? What comes up next on that on the CD? There's a whole. It's like a mixtape thing,
right?
And then I have a CD, a Celia Cruz CD. It's in there, and I have what else is in there? I've been on tour for about a month, so I don't even remember what's in my car right now.
Oh, that's all right. That's all right. As soon as you said Steely Dan, two songs come to mind: Hey 19 and Black Friday.
Ooh, both of them good. I think the one that's on this one is Babylon Sisters.
Oh, nice cut. Very nice cut. See, folks, there's one thing you need to know about being an independent artist. Listen to everything. Learn your craft. Take those music lessons and protect your work. That is, can't say anything else more about that. Any parting words, Alan, since we're getting toward the end of this, that advice, what have you, that you can give to the young artists or seasoned artists?
Keep at it. You never know when that thing is going to happen, when someone's going to call and say, can you do this? And if you didn't keep at it and you stopped, you're going to have to say no. So keep at it. Keep practicing, keep listening, keep trying to be inspired, keep finding things that inspire you. Listen to what inspired you before and try to find something new that inspires you.
Right.
Just keep at it. Stay in it. Stay in it. That's what I would say.
Hit the shed. Practice. There you go.
Practice. You got it.
All right.
And hopefully in a fun way. Hopefully it's the kind of practice that it used to be, it was. I used to play drums all the time, but it wasn't because I was trying to practice and do that. I just wanted to play drums. That's all I want to do. So,
yeah, I mean, I'm doing what I love. So, I've started out playing piano. All the piano lessons I've been playing since I was 5 years old. Migrated up to other instruments. Little sax, I play at them. I'm proficient at the piano and the keyboards, but I play at bass, at sax, at the drums.
Believe me, I understand exactly what you're saying, but that's part of it, and it's all good. It is all good.
There you go. And I've kind of found my way into audio engineering. I'm loving it, trying to learn something every single day with it. Podcasting. All of it. Live audio engineer. I'm trying to learn something every day. So, ladies and gentlemen, the advice we can give you, learn as much as you can. Keep your mind open to various types of music. Don't just narrow yourself down to one style of music, because something can be gleaned from every last thing that you ever listen to. Protect your work. Practice, as we used to call it. Hit the woodshed. Hit the shed.
Yeah.
Keep yourself available and open for any of the gigs that pop out, because like Alan just said, if you stop and then that gig comes when you least expect it, you may have to say no because you feel you're not ready. So always be ready.
Yep. That's cool. Right. Stay in it.
That's it. Stay in it. Well, Alan, Thank you so much, my brother, for being a part of Music Outlook LA. I appreciate the time you have taken to be interviewed and all of that, and the wealth of information that you have provided for us for this past hour.
I appreciate the call. I'm honored that you would even think of me. And like I said, I'm happy to catch up. Catch up with my old buddy, mentor, teacher, pal.
Hey, I've got to catch up to all of you guys. I'm so busy trying to get you guys up and running that I'm like, I'm a couple steps behind. Let me hurry up and catch up to you guys here. So, you know who you need to call when you need a keyboard player, piano player.
You already know I know.
You got the digits, hit me up. I'll be up on stage with you, man. Hey, when a band is out playing, if we get a big enough venue to spot, I'm calling you up, man. Bring some of those percussion instruments with you, man.
Whatever. I will be there. I'll be there.
We'll tear it up. Well, folks, that's going to do it for this episode of Music Outlook LA, Gigs, Gear, Info. Thanks again to my guest, Alan Lightner, and be sure to check out the show notes for his website and contact information. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast here at Spreaker.com, Spreaker.com. Music Outlook LA is also available on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play, CastBox, the TuneIn Radio app, and Listen Notes, the podcast search engine. I'm Will Kimsey, a.k.a. WK Music. Peace.
Peace.
This podcast is both brought to you and produced by Kimsey Entertainment, LLC. Music Outlook LA is a copyrighted broadcast of Kimsey Entertainment, LLC. The views and opinions expressed on this show are not necessarily those of Will Kimsey or Kimsey Entertainment, LLC. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or any other use of this product without the express written consent of Kimsey Entertainment, LLC is strictly prohibited.